Well, it's December, and that means that Build 41 multiplayer for Project Zomboid should finally be around the corner. So, in order to prepare for that, I thought a guide video focusing on multiplayer might be a great addition. So today, I will cover some of the best skill specializations in multiplayer squads, covering what I think are great skills to have in a group setting, especially when grinding for skills is going to be all the much harder when you can't speed up time. Now, I won't be covering things such as stealth or combat, as I'm looking at skills that benefit an entire group. Instead, I'll be covering a few skills themselves, good professions to take, and lastly, a few helpful perks that will definitely go the extra mile. Anyway, I hope this will give y'all some good ideas and help your survival just a tiny bit more. To begin this guide, I will be covering the bread and butter of important skill specializations, and that will be the skills themselves. Knowing these can give you a guideline on how to build characters that are beneficial to the group without much other knowledge, so I thought it'd be right to cover these first so you can build onto it later. In my opinion, carpentry is one of the better skills to spec into right from the start, especially in a group setting. Mostly because of the wide range of applications that you might not think of and useful things you can build with it. With a high level of carpentry, you're able to do the basics, such as build higher quality and varied constructs, such as walls and doors, which is already useful for a group, especially if you want to build your own base or add on to a pre-existing base. But the carpentry skill also affects the quality of weapons you can craft, such as spears and stakes. You can also have a higher chance of repairing weapons and are given the ability to use wood glue, the best repair item in the game, giving those axes and bats all the more mileage out of their life. Lastly, having a higher carpentry skill allows you to build furniture that can really help out your base, namely the composter and rain collector, with one allowing you to salvage rotten food, and the other being able to collect water whenever it rains. So it's safe to say that having a dedicated carpenter is a real nice addition to any team composition out there. This one is pretty darn important as well, especially if you decide to base up away from town, as this can give you a direct source of food without the way of, let's say, farming. Anyways, I decided to bundle both foraging and fishing together, but if I had to choose between the two, I would personally go for foraging. But anyways, it's great having a few levels in these, as it gives your group an extra source of food to hold off on consuming some of those precious non-perishables. It's also good because while you can fish and forage without the necessary skills, the fact that you can't fast forward time is going to make these actions unbearable to sit through at level 0, unless you're a little bit proficient in them. And if you plan on basing anywhere that's far away from town, it's a no-brainer to take. Cars are pretty darn important, from saving you much needed time, giving you all the more carry capacity, and allowing you to access cities and towns from much further away. But keeping your car in top condition can get really tricky, especially when you are hitting zombies and rogue fence foes going 60 miles an hour. So having a dedicated mechanic to replace and exchange parts is going to be a really good addition, especially when the skill itself is an absolute grind in single player, let alone in a multiplayer situation where you can't speed up time. Having someone who can easily exchange windows, repair engines, and tires is a must-have for any group out there, because the last thing you want to do is have a piss-poor carry capacity in your beat-up truck that stalls out every 30 seconds in the most inopportune places. Treat your car like a newborn child, alright? Much like mechanics, electrical can be an absolute grind to level up as well, but they aren't as important, yet they still hold a pretty solid place in a group. For one, as soon as the power goes out, you're going to want someone with a high electrical skill to maintain and repair that pesky generator, because it will actually explode under a certain threshold of condition. Aside from that, the electrical skill can also give you access to noise generators and other cool doodads, which might be helpful at moving a few hordes around the area at a safe distance. Even if it's not your main skill, having someone spec a tiny bit into this never hurts. Last but not least for skills, we have tailoring. I again say this one as it can be a pain to actually level up, but the benefit they can get can be really helpful for the entire group. Essentially, tailoring allows you to repair clothing, but more importantly, you can also reinforce clothing to give them extra protection values, which can really come in handy and could potentially save someone's life. Now, this isn't as important as, let's say, a carpenter or mechanic, but having the extra bit of armor for everyone is really nice of an addition to a squad. Okay, we finally got the skills out of the way. Time to move on to professions. Now, These are going to stack on a few skills I previously mentioned, so I won't mention a few no-brainers such as Park Ranger being good for a foraging build, but there are also a few professions that I want to cover that give some really nice hidden benefits for your character. So let's begin. This one is great to have right from the get-go, and it is a super good profession in general. But to start off with, we have the Burglar. Specializing in stealth, this profession is already good from the nimble and stealth bonuses, but the reason why I included this is because of the passive you get, and that is the ability to hotwire and start vehicles without needing a key. Which basically means as long as you have a gas can, you can start and drive just about any vehicle in Knox County. This ability alone makes Burglar a #1 priority when it comes to multiplayer. Getting a car early can be a massive game changer, and combined with a mechanic who can keep cars in peak condition, can be a really good synergy. No matter if you only have 2 or 6 people in a group, make sure one of them can hotwire like a champ. It'll benefit everyone. The Electrician is a bit self-explanatory. This gives you 3 bonus electrical skills, but the most important part is being able to use generators and maintain them by default without needing the skill magazine. So just taking this profession is great if you don't want to go on a wild goose chase for those skill magazines, because without it, you won't be able to use a generator. So taking this profession and using skills to spec into something else is a pretty solid idea, at least if the power is out and you have to rely on a generator. Much like Electrician, the Mechanic is in the same vein. Taking this profession allows you to repair and replace most parts in a vehicle, without needing the magazines in order to do so. It also gives you a bit of short blunt skill for combat, so if your group does need a mechanic, taking this profession and going into some other perks can be pretty beneficial. The Metalworker is kind of there for flavor compared to others, as it's like the Carpentry skill, but without the range and versatility of Carpentry. But taking the skill allows you to build metal structures that would be locked behind many different skill magazines, so it's something to keep in mind. And lastly, for professions, we have the Engineer. The Engineer is in the same boat as the Metalworker, but you do get some Carpentry and electrical skills from it. But more importantly, it allows you to craft profession-locked explosives that can really come in handy. This is also one of the professions that has recipes you can't unlock in any other way other than being an engineer from the start. So if you want to create some explosives, such as flame traps or pipe bombs, this is the profession for you. Last but not least, we have the traits option. There are actually quite a few traits that give some really awesome benefits, but we'll mostly focus on the hidden ones that give a lot of bang for your buck. So let's get started. Herbalist is a really darn powerful perk to have. First of all, it allows you to identify poisonous mushrooms and berries, which is pretty important to have, especially if you're feeding everyone else with it, but it also allows you to forge medicinal herbs that can be massive game changers that you can't get normally without the skill magazine, which can be really hard to find sometimes. But the game changer for me is the ginseng plant, which actually lowers your character's exertion, which is, in my knowledge, the only item that does it currently. You can also forage lemongrass, which is able to treat food sickness, which can be really helpful if you find yourself eating some bad food later down the line. Overall, this is one of the more important perks to have, for sure. If the mechanic profession is just a full mechanical experience, think of this trait as Mechanic Light, as you can still work on any vehicle without needing the magazine, other than on sports vehicles, but your skill will be lower at just a 1 in the skill. This still allows you to do the basics of the vehicles, such as change out tires and some parts here and there, but this trait is perfect if you want to be able to work on vehicles, but don't want to spend as much skill points on it. It's a solid perk indeed. Up next, we have the Angler. Once again, this is just like a light version of an actual profession, but the cool thing about this is that it gives you the knowledge to make and fix your own fishing rod, which can really go the extra mile in a wilderness-oriented base location, allowing you to not rely on spears. With only 4 points needed, it can be a real nice side hustle for your character. Hunter is also a really solid perk, giving your character a wide assortment of skills such as stealth, short blade, and shooting. But more importantly, it gives you the recipes to create any wildlife traps without needing the skill magazine, which can really give you a nice passive income of food. Mixing Hunter with Park Ranger is a really good synergy because of this. Definitely a great perk to have and one of my favorites indeed. Again, we have Carpenter Light. But this trait actually gives you a little extra bonus as well, making combining this with carpentry really damn strong. Anyways, it gives you extra maintenance in carpentry, which is great to have in general, but it also increases your building speed and gives you an extra 100 HP to all constructions excluding walls. So it's safe to say that this perk combined with others is super great to have, which makes the 8 extra skill points well worth it. Lastly, we have Gardener. While not being mentioned in any skill section, this perk is nice if you want to create a farm, as this gives you a bit of farming skill, but it also gives you the recipe cures for any plant diseases you might come across. While not the most important, it can be pretty nice to have, especially since it's only around 4 points to get. Well, that's going to be it for my guide on skill specializations for multiplayer. I tried my best to include skills that would benefit the entire group, so there really wasn't much combat or personal builds. I might make a guide on those in the future though. Anyway, I hope you all have learned something new today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more if you did. It definitely means a lot, and it shows me y'all really like these types of videos. I won't keep y'all any longer now. Thank you so much for watching, and have a damn good day, and peace out.